Did I hear anything? Is it recording? When I was a kid, one of the reasons I became an atheist was because I used to watch televangelists on TV. They're still on, you don't hear about them as much. These are Protestant preachers who take advantage of people. They preach something that will earn them money. Many of them are fake healers, not faith healers. I had a video about one of them last semester, I think. You could do a little research. They're all the rage, even yet. Now, they don't just preach worldly prosperity, but they preach political success. Their message is if you follow God, God will bless you with riches or political success. And the reason we follow God is because we want those things. We are greedy in the way the two old men in the reading from Daniel are lustful. And so these preachers appeal to our greed. And this is their gimmick, and they make millions off of this. This is what they do to Christianity, and they drive many people away as they drove me away. But what does Scripture say about worldly success and following God? In the psalm today that we're reading, do not be overawed when others grow rich, when the splendor of their houses increases. For they will take nothing with them when they die. Their splendor will not descend with them. Though while they live, they count themselves blessed, and people praise you when you prosper. They will join those who have gone before them, who will never again see the light of life. People who have wealth but lack understanding are like the beasts that perish. It ain't about wealth, or we might say success, including political success. It's about fidelity to God, which then is an expression of and brings you toward wisdom. According to the psalmist, those who have riches but lack understanding are as worthless as the beasts. But we see this played out in the other readings today. In fact, what does Susanna say when she is being falsely accused? She says, and I highlighted it down here, I am completely trapped, Susanna groaned. If I yield, it will be my death. In other words, I'll have to give in to sex with you two old guys, and I will be unchaste, and I will be committing adultery on my husband. It will be her it will be her spiritual death. So if I yield to you, it will be my death. If I refuse, I cannot escape your power. So this is a perfect way for the author of this chapter to show us the bind she's in. I believe it was Measure for Measure, one of the Shakespeare plays. I believe that's the one where the main female character is put in this same position. So she's in a bind. Does she agree to commit adultery? Or does she let these old men wreck her reputation by saying they saw her doing the deed with somebody else? Well, what does she say? She knows the answer. Does she follow the prosperity gospel? Is worldly success and riches and fame what we're here for, or are we here for something else? Yet it is better for me not to do it and to fall into your power than to sin before the Lord. It is better for, as Socrates says, it is better for a person to suffer evil than to do it. Best of all is neither to suffer evil nor to do it, but if you have to choose, as Socrates did, and as Jesus did, you suffer the evil visited upon you by others rather than taking a part in committing it. That's the stand Susanna takes. Because Daniel appears to be the only wise man living in Babylon at the time. He says to the Jews when they're about to lead her off to execution on the basis of these two false testimonies, you fools, did you not interrogate them separately? And he does. And they don't even have the details right. And the two old men end up being put to death. It's kind of like yesterday when we talked about how Peter being released from the jailhouse is the opposite of the story of Jesus and Barabbas. The good escape and the evil are put to death. In this case, The two old men, the evil characters, have to suffer the very fate they were trying to inflict upon Susanna. They are hoist by their own petard, as Christopher Marlowe would say. They suffer the fate. They are trapped in the trap that they set. Justice is served. But then, let's take a look at what happens in the gospel, because we see the same thing illustrated. We talked yesterday about Peter girding himself before he jumps in the water, and Adam being ashamed that he is naked before he confesses to God what he has done in eating of the apple. I didn't really pull that all together because I actually watched that video before I sent it to a friend. And, this is probably how most of these videos are. I have all these ideas, but maybe I don't tie them together. I think part of the idea is we gird ourselves. We have to do the work to clothe ourselves in righteousness. We become righteous by the grace of God, but there's work involved in working out our own salvation in fear and trembling, as St. Paul says, so that faith works through love, so that our acts and works of love are an expression of our faith, a way, you might say, metaphorically, of clothing ourselves. Well, here, Peter has jumped into the water to swim to Jesus, but he clothes himself first. And when Peter is released from prison, he clothes himself. The angel tells him to, apparently, so he's not walking around town naked. So clothing is a kind of preparation. And Jesus says something about that here. After he gets Peter finally to admit that he loves him, he says in verse 18, "Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted." Well, that's part of growing up. We learn how to dress ourselves and to walk. But when you are old, Peter, you will stretch out your hands, and another will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go. This he said to show by what kind of death he was to glorify God. He's saying, you will stretch out your hands. You will not be able to be free. Someone else will dress you. How will they dress you? They will bind you or nail you to a cross. You will be a prisoner. And John tells us that Jesus makes this prophecy to let Peter know, okay, you've said, Peter, 3 times that you love me. Guess what? You are going to follow in my footsteps. The tradition is Peter said, "Crucify me upside down," when they were about to crucify him, because he didn't think he had the dignity. He didn't think he couldn't accept the honor of dying the way his Lord did. He wanted to die in a way that showed that he was not worthy of the grace that God had given him. But now, what does this mean? Is this Jesus preaching the prosperity gospel to Peter, telling him that there will come a time when you won't dress yourself or move around, others will do it for you? And John tells us this is a prediction of Peter's death. And after saying this, Jesus said to him, "Follow me." Now, I'm not saying that riches aren't important. We can use riches to do good in the world. And I'm not saying politics is not important. We have to be involved in the political life of our community. But winning the game is not what life is about. Whoever dies with the most toys wins. Maybe you've heard people say that. It's not how it works. The stuff that we get, we can't take with us. As the psalmist points out, you can't take it with you. It's wisdom that's important. It's fidelity to God that's important. Susanna knows that. And even after Jesus tells Peter, "You're going to drink of the same cup I drank of. You will suffer as I did. Whoever follows me will be following a way of the cross." After he tells him that, he reiterates, "Follow me." If you want to follow Jesus, like the people who listen to the prosperity gospel televangelist fake healers, because you think following Jesus will make you successful either financially, or it'll make you popular, or it'll make you healthy, or it will make you somehow powerful in politics or as the world views power, if that's your motivation for following Jesus, you're doing it all wrong. He doesn't promise us prosperity. I never promised you a rose garden, is a phrase we used to use. On the contrary, he promises us that we will be persecuted in some way as he was. He says that when he gives the Beatitudes back in Matthew. He says that blessed are you when men persecute you and revile you and disturb you wrongly in my name for my sake. It's a blessing, not the blessings of the world, the blessings of the kingdom beyond this world. That's why we're Christians, and don't let people around you convince you that we're Christians for any other reason. We're Christians because we love him, and he promises us a share in his suffering. That's why we're Christians. And that share in his suffering will purify us and will make us like Susanna and like Daniel and like all the saints, ultimately sharers in his resurrected glory. That's why we're Christians. We're losers on this world, in this earth, in this time. We are losers and misfits. That's the badge of Christian.